Blackburn pulls up for three. Boom! Knocks it down.
Curry from the corner at three. Puts it in. For overtime. Makes it. Garrett. Right.
Welcome to the latest edition of the MVP cast from me, Marco. Is now the new Women's British Basketball League season starting this weekend. It begins with a mini tournament at the University of Essex. Every team involved in the initial stage of the WBBA trophy. And my guest, without doubt, the most successful female coach over the past decade within the domestic game. Lots of trophies brought back to South Yorkshire as the head coach of Sheffield Hatters. Vanessa Ellis, welcome to the MVP cast.
Hello.
11 years you've been in charge now. Does it feel that long? Has it flown by, or has it felt like longer?
No, it's flown by, to be honest with you. I took over from my mum, Betty, who is, without doubt the most successful coach, men or women, in basketball with the amount of trophies she won. So, big shoes to step into, but, I've made it my own, and the 11 years have flown past.
What was that like? Because we overuse the word legend sometimes. Your mum is a veritable legend in the game. Was there any, at the time, was there a nervousness about stepping into those shoes? Because they were huge shoes to fill.
I don't think there's nervousness. I wouldn't use that words, but, Hatters during the time, because obviously I played at the time, very, very successful over a very long period. And, if you look at any sort of cycles of teams, they don't last for that long as she did. And that was down to her. Amazing coach, amazing person. I mean, she still drives the team, the club forward now, in her retirement, as we should say. But, what I wanted to do is just take the things I'd learnt from her, and it's about, having that right attitude, having the drive to be successful. And success doesn't always mean winning. Obviously, people from the outside see it as that, but success can mean a lot of things within our culture and our club. And, I've hopefully learnt from her and tried to put my spin on it, and we haven't done bad over the last 11 years.
No, it's been all right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's over 50 trophies since the club was set up in the back in the 60s. I mean, it's a very special club, and as you said, it's a club that's endured ever since I've been covering basketball, which is almost a quarter of a century now. God, I'm getting old. It's been there about. Is there something special in the DNA of Hatters that people, particularly through your family, that have been able to maintain this?
I just think it's the culture that, my mum Betty established. She always says, and this is quite relevant for us now, you have to approach everything to do it in the right way, be professional, and that doesn't mean about being paid. It's about trying to do everything properly in the right way, and, and setting those key targets, having that culture. Right down to our juniors, and it's just about being at every training session. There shouldn't be an excuse. We should be there and driving forward and working together as a team. And I think those key culture within the club that's been established for years. We all try and follow, but it's getting harder and harder.
I mean, your sister Lorraine, obviously a fantastic player in her own day. And was it one of those things that you can't remember a time not being dragged along to a court with your mum, or playing or picking up a ball?
No, I mean, it has been a part of our lives since we were very young. I can remember when we were young, when she was playing, just climbing up on the climbing frames at the side of the court when sports halls used to have the wooden bars there. We used to be along there and play. But, people often used to say to me, particularly when I played, "Oh, you're missing out on so much." I'm like, "Well, what am I missing out on? I still got friends, I still do other things." But, the things that basketball have brought me, that's what they're missing out on. And, and I just, in a way, it's been part of our life, and we just love it. So, I don't ever feel, I think I've gained more than I've lost. So, yeah.
I mean, that team back in the sort of mid-90s, if you correct me wrong in the timeline, but it was you, Lorraine, Sharon Castaneda, who I still think might be the best player I've seen in this country, and Jameson, who was a marvellous player. I mean, that was that for me is still the best team that I've seen in terms of women's basketball in this country. But what was so special about that? Because it can't have just been talent. Because big great teams
No,
never are just talent.
no, we were great friends. And that doesn't mean we spent lots of time with each other, but we respected each other. We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and played to our strengths and accepted people's weaknesses. And we just were a team. We were a team culture on and off the court. We did all sorts together away from basketball as well. And even now I'm still friends with many of that team. We're still in contact with with people who are in other countries. They were just that special bond, really. And I think that when you talk about teams that are successful, there's always some magic in there that as a people we got on well. We had arguments and we challenged each other, and and training often was tough, and we knocked each other in the wall, but we'd go for a drink afterwards and laugh and joke, and and that I think that was key to the success.
How much do you think that prepared you for being a coach in terms of being able to play in a team
Mm.
that had great experiences? I mean, you're playing in big competitions, winning things, working under your mum as well. I mean, how much was that, I
Yeah.
guess, the reason why you're a good coach now, or how much of it was just you, I guess, liking the coaching profession, if I can put it that way?
I think it's a combination of everything, isn't it? I think those experiences I had. It's about recognizing, and I don't think I necessarily always did it right early on as a coach, but recognizing that a good team is just more than the X's and O's, isn't it? It's about the relationships. It's about getting the best out of people. It's about developing that team culture. Um, and that's I experienced it, so you see why it's beneficial. So I think, yeah, it does help for yourself as a coach. I think I went away and learnt more of the X's and O's from my conferences and my learning and the courses I was on initially, and then tried to merge it all, and I'm still learning now. So I'm working with somebody like Chema, who was all about that team culture and that um you know, working and developing relationships. I think, that just cements that side of being a coach, and what, how to develop that.
How do you how do you think the importance, or what do you think the importance is of someone like yourself as a female coach? So I looked down the list of the
Mm,
WBBL teams. There's Steph Collins and there's you,
yeah,
and the rest are all male coaches in the women's game. And it's a very similar picture if you look at women's basketball
yeah,
worldwide, college basketball as well. I mean, how important is it, do you think, to have people like yourself, Steph, kind of coming through now as a coach, to
yeah.
be able to say that this is a role that you can go into either when you stop playing or maybe just from scratch?
Oh, it's so important. You've got to have role models, whether it's players or coaches, because young girls, young players, or players as they get older, they've got to see, a role model that you can aspire to, or show that it can be done, or it's there to be done for anybody. And it's interesting because I did my masters in applied sports coaching, and my dissertation was why there's so many female coaches in the UK. And one of the key themes that came out was the lack of role models, the lack of opportunities for women. And it's so important that role models are there for girls, women to see that you can do it.
Is there something that could be done better? Because even look at assistant coaches, there's not that many. I mean, is there
Mm.
something that's maybe missing in this chain of events right now that might bring more females into WBBL or other roles? Because even look at the NBA now, more women assistant coaches there, and that's not something we've seen as a breakthrough here.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, and goes down to lots of issues, isn't it? I mean, the role the role of women in society and the cultural aspects that they are. You do get female coaches, and often at that young participation level, because that's where the kids are, so they go on and they'll get involved there. But then they don't then see that giving time up and the time and energy that's needed to progress up the levels is always, weighs up the benefits that you get from coaching. I still, now I have had, but my coaching is mainly volunteering. There's not many opportunities for me to get a full-time job within coaching, so a lot of women don't make that decision because it's not worth it. The benefits outweigh the commitment that you have to give. There isn't, like I've just said, there isn't the role models there to follow, so that decision is, well, nobody else is doing it. Do I really want to commit this time, energy and effort? People are surprised when I say that I don't get paid for coaching the Hatters. And, I give up 3 nights a week, 1 day at the weekend, sometimes 2, and that's all volunteering, and people are shocked at that. But I love it. It's my passion. It's been, part of my DNA for years. And I do it because of that. Not everybody would do it because of that. So I think the opportunities need to be there as well.
And if you didn't do it, your mum would come back.
Oh.
She'd be
she did
straight
come
off.
back last season when I was away with GB.
I mean, we're talking about this weekend being the start of the WBBL, 6th year of the new reconstituted WBL as it is. For you, how much? I mean, having played in the days when the old NBL was pretty good, but in practical terms, how much, if any, or what difference has that made about the way that the league has sort of restructured, rebranded itself?
I think it's a great step forward of the restructuring, the rebranding, and going much more towards the semi-professional league, and hopefully in a few years going for the professional league. But what worries me is it's not a real reflection of British basketball. And you look at the league now, and I've chatted to you a little bit about this previously, but where are the young British players in the league? Where are the British players? You talked about our team, and when we were successful, we only had Sharon Castaneda. The rest of our team was made up of British players, and to me now that is lacking in the league. There isn't that number of good British basketball players who contribute to the league. The teams that are going to be successful, and this is where our club, we don't know if we can continue much more for several reasons, but one of them is we can't fund bringing in 5 and 6, 7 players that other teams with that support behind them, whether it's university or they've got big sponsors or big funding, can. And we've got to take a step back and look, how are we developing young British players? And I think that's the biggest difference in the league. I'm all for the professionalism of it, but we've got to get the underneath right as well.
Because when we spoke during Eurobasket, when we were in Riga, and you were talking a little bit about the financial situation at that point, and that's just 3 months ago. You were slightly concerned at that point that Hatters wouldn't have the finances to go into the league this season. I mean, how precarious is that situation? Not necessarily even this summer, but from year to year to year.
Oh, every year. I mean, a decision was made while I was out in Serbia that we would go ahead, but again, it's reliant on a budget that we've set ourselves targets every couple of months to bring money in. We haven't got money till the end of the season. We haven't got money to bring in any more players. We've brought in what we can, and we've got players, who we've had for a long time. We've had Lisa Hutchinson return, which is great, who's been out for a few years, and Sarah Cooney, they've both had children now come back. But we can't bring any more players in. We can't offer British players to come and, give them money to play. So, but we month by month we've got targets to bring money in. So, and that's a lot driven by my mum, and she spends hours and hours writing grants and contacting people for sponsorship and support, and that's on a monthly basis. So, and we're all up to our limits because every single person is a volunteer. We have nobody who's paid to do anything for the club. We're all volunteers, and it's just tough. we're at our maximum and we can't do much more than we already do. So yeah, we don't know if we'll continue much. And like I said before, we didn't even know if we were going to make this year, but we've decided to give it a go.
I mean, it's always easy to point the finger at governing bodies, and I know. I guess in a way, if you look at women's basketball clubs in France and Spain, the model. I mean, their revenue really comes from local sponsors, local authorities, etc. I mean, it's not a governing body issue there. But do you think that there's still a gulf there in terms of selling women's basketball? I mean, the obvious comparison we always put is netball, who sell themselves very well, whether you loathe the sport or like it. They sell themselves brilliantly well and talk themselves up. That's never really happened in women's basketball.
No, and to me, I was involved with the England team that won a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games, and to me, that wasn't used. That's fantastic, and obviously this summer being involved with the Great Britain women, doing, coming forth, getting that needs to be used. Those two successes, particularly of the women's game, sort of for me, I've felt, and I'm in the game, has fallen flat. Not enough was done to really, jump on the back of those successes and say, look at this women's game, look what we can do. Let's see if we can get some sponsorship in. Let's see if we can get some support in. Let's see if we can get more media coverage in whatever form or format that we can. And I think there's just missed opportunities that we should have really taken with when success of winning medals and qualifying for pre-Olympics have happened.
And it's amazing the context. I mean, obviously we were there in Belgrade, and that that semi-final was extraordinary to see a GB team on that kind of level. And we kind of compare it to, as we often do with netball winning a Commonwealth Gold, but the difficulty level of getting to a semi-final of Eurobasket, in my opinion a lot of people, is much harder than winning a Commonwealth Gold in netball.
Yeah.
But it was extraordinary when I, being out there and then coming back, and it was silence.
Yeah,
and, even as someone in the media, it passed by almost without any note, which I thought was incredible. And it's somewhere whose responsibility is it to go out and try and make some noise on it? And that's I think what was sadly lacking this summer.
Yeah, well, that's just what I've said. Totally agree. And people from the sport. I work in education, and I was mentoring some master's students who'd come into the club, and they were both from other countries, and they both, because I was just about to leave for the Eurobasket, and they were both so impressed that GB had even qualified for the top 16, because they understand how difficult it is just to get to the finals, and they're going, oh, that's fantastic, you actually made the top 16. Other people have no idea that just getting there is an achievement, and the fact of the success that what we did and surprised many people in the basketball world. And it's just, like I said, it's just been, what's been, it should have been grabbed and thrown out there for everybody to know and hear about.
What for you was, I mean, I don't think that was entirely a surprise run to the semi-finals. Obviously, it was a pleasant surprise to a lot of people. It was probably overachieving, but it wasn't beyond the realms of possibility when that tournament started. But for you, what was the most fun part of being within that incredible run?
I just think working with the staff and the players, it was great. And I think that feeling we have in camp within our team, and teams, everybody, that's how we talk now, we just all on the same page. And it's tough. People are prepared to work hard, people are prepared to support each other, people will do whatever it takes. And and that's great, that's fun, that's just wonderful to be part of. And and it's just exciting. And what happened was we won. So, when you keep winning and you keep being successful, it just gets more fun and more fun and more fun, doesn't it? And it was great. And we talk about the team culture and the teamwork, but there's a little bit of sprinkle of magic there. And you've met Chema, and he just brings something to everything that just makes it fun and joyous. And you'd lay down and do anything and everything for him and for the team.
I mean, you've been assistant obviously to quite a few head coaches for GB now. I mean, I would guess he's the most fun one that you would work with.
Of course, it's just how he is, his personality. Each coach I've worked with, I've learned different things from each one, and that's helped me develop as a coach. But Chema's he's just great to work for, and he just builds your confidence, and I think that's a big thing within the team. It's the players are confident. He just brings confidence to the staff. Just encourages her and it makes you feel that you can do it. So, that side of it is something that, it's great to be part of.
How much do you think it helped during the tournament that there was a little bit of a us against the world mentality from everyone was trying to live in this bubble of the tournament, but everyone knows what's going on outside it in terms of funding and people criticizing things. I mean, how much do you think psychologically that was a valuable little extra edge?
I don't feel within camp that we ever thought that. Because one of the things we decided as staff was we sat down with some of the senior players who'd been with the team a while, and we had quite an open and honest, frank conversation because I think it was needed. And that was the first day in camp. We had a really conversation where, look, this is the situation. We know it's happening. You know it's happening, but we can't let it affect us. So let's get out what we need to say now, and then we're just going to put it to the side and just get on. So I think, we just left it to the side in lots of ways and had our target, had our goal, and we just concentrated on that. So it wasn't really us against everything else. It was just, right, what are we here for? Let's get on with it.
How much, because Chema came out with that it was a very frank statement, I think, if I recall, after the semi-final, when he said, that people had to stop talking about planning for Paris Olympics or, talking about, I guess it was about stopping talking and getting on and doing. I mean, how much was that for you? I would have guessed that's probably something you've seen for a long time.
Yeah, and he sat in the same meetings with me of planning for the 2028 Olympics, and I think me and Chema had both sat 2 or 3 years before and we're planning for the 2024 Olympics, and then now it's the 2028. But he's right, it's about the here and now. What are we going to do? And like I've just said, to get young British players playing at the level that that other countries are producing, much more players than we do. And we're a rich nation. We've got a higher population, but we've produced some great players. You look at Temi, look at Joe Leadham, look at Chantal Ande. Just 3 of those. They're just immense players, and I can name others, but we should be able to produce more and more of players like that. We're not. And what do we need to do to get our young girls on a pathway where they can become players of that caliber? And that's what we've got to concentrate on.
But I guess the credit is, and this goes to you, Chema, and a lot of the team managers have been involved, is unlike the men, there's been a real sense of belonging and ownership of that program, which you see in other countries. The successful countries all have it. We saw at the FIBA World Cup there. The US, they don't have it. That's what went wrong. But the successful countries like Spain, Argentina, women's basketball, the same, all have that sense of belonging. I mean, is that something that you and Chema and others kind of stay on top of during the year in terms of, reaching out to players, just being there?
Chema does that tremendously well. That's part of his role as head coach. Around the league, the players who are still in Britain, I always make sure that we have conversations during the year and seeing how they get on. But it is that communication that it's making people feel valued and important, isn't it? It's about, we've not forgotten you. We know you're there. How you doing? And I know all the players are in regular contact with Chema and reach out to him, and wherever he can, he goes and watches the players who are playing in Spain and makes that effort. just to go and watch their games and see how they're doing. So it's really, really important.
I mean, it's not that long to the Eurobasket qualifiers start again.
No.
It's November, Poland and Belarus. But obviously, the one we're all kind of looking forward to is the Olympic qualifiers next February. I mean, we talk about planning. How much have you been able with Chema and the staff to start planning to that? Given that obviously, as the funding isn't necessarily in place just yet, and governing body being as it is, can't probably think beyond next week at times.
No, so I actually had a week's holiday at the end of August, got a week away, and during that there was a meeting. I was invited, but my holiday was already pre-booked. No, I was out in Montenegro watching Queen, actually. And I think from what's come of the meeting, there is some funding from UK Sport. There was a little bit of wrangling about, look, November's part of that preparation for the Olympics, so we're getting some funding for that. So, we are starting to put a programme in place, but it's very difficult, isn't it, when you don't know how much, ready for Eurobasket, we were promised so much, we didn't get enough, cuts had to be made, they weren't always done in the right way, but, in the end, we got a good program that obviously was successful. So sometimes just have to get on with what you've got and plan your program to your means and just take it from there. That's what I said. This is where we're at. We're just getting on with it. So I think that's the approach we take. And if we get extra, fantastic. But if we get extra, it has to be used in the right way. That's going to be of beneficial to the team and our success, and not wasted. And I've been involved in the past where there was a lot of money and a lot of it was wasted.
Let's just take a pause for one moment to tell you all about the British Basketball All-Stars Championship, which returns on Sunday, October the 13th. The venue, the Copper Box Arena in London, with 8 of the BBL's very best teams doing battle in this fantastic tournament, which will be live on Sky Sports. It features 12-minute games, an all-star 5-point line, and that golden buzzer power play. And the British Basketball All-Stars Championship promises to be a non-stop afternoon of fast-paced hoops action. Now, the tournament again showcasing the very best of British basketball talent. Surrey Scorchers out to defend the title they won 12 months ago. You really want to be there. You can get your tickets now. They're on sale with all the information available at allstarsbasketball.co.uk. When you look, I mean, your mum, we were talking, I think it was just last year, and she talked about women's basketball. We go back to generally the development of it. You felt that from governing body levels, it had not been given enough of a priority. There was not as much of a strategic sort of presence and planning and resources, etc., diverted to. I mean, on the ground where you are, does it still feel like, and I guess all the home nations, we can group them together, the national governing bodies are not getting this right?
Yeah, particularly on the girls' side, we've got to get girls into the game. You look around, you look at the boys' leagues and the girls' league, you look at the numbers of there's such a vast difference between the numbers of boys and girls playing. And that's where there's got to be a different strategic plan for the girls' women's game, because the girls are going to netball. That's where they're going because they're doing a better job. We've got to get it into schools. We've got to, I joked last week, I was at the volunteers dinner, and every table had some different BE, and he was talking about, we're launching the new primary school program that'll be launched soon, and and it's called Slam Jam, and I did it a bit of tonguing. I said, well, but that's a very male name, isn't it? What's Slam Jam got to do with the women's game? But they don't think about that, that unbiased, conscious, unbiased, that unconscious bias is in there again. Slam Jam's mainly to do with the men's game, isn't it? And that's going into primary schools. So that's the first thing that they hear on the game of basketball. It's just little things like that where we've got to make a conscious effort to really engage with the young girls and the young players. And that's a bit of strategic planning from the national governing body. I don't know if you've heard that this weekend they're launching the big sort of program, the Basketball England about women and the girls' game and the women's game. They're really trying to promote it, and they're launching that just before the trophy final.
But the thing is, what I found was incredible is I remember a few days after Eurobasket, and there was something came out about. I'm sure it was Basketball England that said, we've got this great women's initiative planned for the game.
Yeah.
It was almost like a belated planning, and I thought, why is there still a need at this point to have a initiative, and why has this not been fundamentally part of what you do?
Yeah. Well, I agree, but at least they've got one now. So hopefully, it's definitely needed. So hopefully, you know, it will make an impact. And, at the club, and this is from Mom and Lorraine particularly, they're all about doing. And we've had lots of strategies and lots of initiatives written down on paper, and they look great written down. But something has to be done. It has to be practical. It has to make an impact, on the ground. And, we can have all the greatest plans in the world and all the greatest initiatives, but somebody's got to do it. It's got to show something, some changes and be implemented. So that's what's key.
Is there enough transparency though in the way that's done? Because there has, clubs have said, that you may have a meeting, people say that something's going to happen, it doesn't happen. And obviously, sometimes it's organizations, people change, etc. But do you feel engaged enough in the way that the sport is put together?
No, I think at the moment not everybody's pulling in the same way, and I think it's really important. There's been a lot of issues over the last 4 or 5 years. There's been a lot of BBF and Basketball England, not always on the same page and fighting, and we're really in the same sport. We should be working together. We should be standing side by side, holding hands and working together for the good of the sport. We've got to, we can't, we've got to stop this infighting. We've got to stop this power wrangling and say, come on, we're in this sport. We all love it. We're in it, for the same reason. And let's work together and stand side by side and step in the same direction for the good of the sport.
How much of a transformative effect do you think if GB were to do it isn't unimaginable, it's imaginable to get to the Olympics next year?
Well, we've put ourselves in a position where, you get a good draw in the pool and you win one game and you're there. So it'd be amazing, but it it's it should be then used as the players should be used as role models. The coaches should be used as role models to inspire young female players, and that can't be missed. Nobody would have written that we could be there. The players, the experienced players were crying because they knew what they'd done and how amazing it was before. What the achievement we made, and if we do succeed, which that's what we're going for. We're not going to just be take part. We're going to try and get to Tokyo. If we do, then it's got to be used in the right way.
When Mr. Positive Glasses hangs up his glass at some point, would you at some point, having been assistant for so long, would you like to be the head coach sometime?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would love to be. Whether I am or not, that's another matter. I love working with Chema, so I wouldn't want him to go because he's amazing. And how he is with me, he gives me lots of responsibility within the team. So, I'm learning all the time and he gets me to do things and he has me there. He's like a mentor to me, sort of. And I think he sees me, but you never know what the future holds, do you? So we'll see.
Let's finish off talking about the WBBL. I mean, you've got trophy start, your first league game at home, October the 13th against Oaklands. I mean, when you look around the league, I mean, obviously Sevenoaks last season, outstanding team, did so well. I mean, does it still feel like them, Leicester, maybe they're the two that everyone's going to have to watch out for?
I don't know this year. I think, you look at the signings clubs made. Essex have signed lots of new players. Oaklands have signed lots of players. Durham signed lots of players. So you don't know. We'll have to see. It's very interesting. I think it's going to be a tougher league again because people are recruiting more and more players in. So, which is always good for the league. So we'll have to see. I think, there might be a few more surprises this year.
Would you take winning another trophy with the last second shot?
Oh, of course.
The WBBL Cup final end of last season, possibly the moment of the entire year.
Yeah, that was an amazing game to be part of. And, I talk about it. We just, going into that, we just had a good 2 or 3 weeks getting in. We didn't know we were playing because Sevenoaks and Leicester's game had been changed. So we were just preparing and it just was all flowing and we were playing well and the team was the team. And I just had a feeling that, this is going to be our day today. And, luckily it was. So, it was great.
What a game it was. Well, anyway, we wish you very best of luck for this season. And, of course, for those GB qualifiers, we're looking forward to them. But to Vanessa Ellis, thanks for joining us in the MVP cast.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition. Subscribe via your preferred podcast provider or get all our past episodes at mvp247.com. We'll have another one very soon, but for now, from me, Mark Woods, it's goodbye.